What is going on, everybody? My name is Jay. This is Unplayable, and I'm here with Mike, and we are here with our resident competitive player, Jim Braden.
I don't know about that, but I play competitively a lot.
Yeah, you jam games. Let's just say that.
I jam. Jim jams.
So what we are going to be doing today is a more meta style video, and we want to teach you. Jim wants to teach you guys how not to get wrecked by the top 6 competitive meta decks that exist right now. These are hot off the press from Richmond sector qualifiers.
That's
and
right.
we are going to teach you how to not be trash. We're going to teach you how to sell shoes. Can someone who doesn't know how to sell shoes teach how to sell them? I don't know.
We're going to find out.
Well, what is it saying? If you can't do, you teach, right?
That's right.
Yep.
And we're going to teach you.
if you can't do, you coach in this situation, right? Can't do, you coach. So yeah, let's get this rolling. And we are going to start with Sabine ECL, a classic. I mean, this deck hasn't gone anywhere.
It's been around for about 47 years.
It retired a little while there during the Django era, but it is back. And it is back with a vengeance because it won Richmond.
Yes.
This is a sick deck. There's been a little bit of innovation here, right? The timely interventions coming in, Sundari Peacekeepers coming in, and then obviously the new stuff from JTL is going to be Chewbacca and Luke Pilot. But that's it from JTL.
Sabine's Masterpiece too, technically. So.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry. Yeah, Sabine's Masterpiece.
And Phoenix Squadron A-Wing. We're just already off.
Okay, yeah, we suck. That's why we're teaching you how to do this. Sorry, I totally miss. I don't know. I think about the A-Wing and I'm like, it's just an A-Wing, but it's obviously from JTO. I totally miss the Sabine's Masterpiece though, and that's a huge part of this deck because some of the stuff you have to keep in mind here is going to be the stuff that can be ECL'd. Sabine's Masterpiece, for example, if you drop a Battlefield Marine or Luke Skywalker on turn 1, turn 2, you can ECL Sabine's Masterpiece as a 4/4, kill Falcons, kill all kinds of shenanigans, which is pretty sick. So we have a whole list of stuff here to keep in mind. Jim, do you wanna do some chatting here about?
Yeah, totally. I think it's easy to assume Sabine players just kind of go on autopilot and just play their cheap stuff and win the game super fast. And that is just simply not true. Yeah. Sabine players know all of the breakpoints. They know what you're trying to
start calculating damage 2 turns early.
Yes. And so that's the best Sabine players in these tournaments are really thinking through what are you trying to do against them and how do they withhold the damage needed to just barely get over those breakpoints to kill you. And like you were saying, a lot of the new cards actually really give some reach for Sabine. It used to be if you could clear the board against Sabine, like you're going to win the game because you've kind of been able to stabilize, you're good to go. Maybe all they can do for damage is just for a cause and then the Sabine ability there. But now Cassian's in the fold. That can always come out at any point. And Timely Intervention has a lot of great cards that can do stuff with. Yeah. Wrecker makes a lot of sense because it's dealing 5 damage potentially, overwhelming, all of that fun. But you got K2SO that can use it. And then, like you mentioned as well already, Sabine's Masterpiece is disgusting. For 5 resources, I mean, you are very strategically getting out a red or green. And every single additional aspect that they have out on the board is 1 more damage every time that thing swings. So whether that's giving experience somewhere or dealing that extra damage. The thing that's great about that unit too is Sabine players who are really good know exactly where to put that. It's not all going like that. The extra experience isn't just going on Sabine's Masterpiece to try to like trade up. It's going on the like Sabine Leader or the next thing that's going to attack into base with. The damage ping is not always going to base. Sometimes it's hitting the shield, but like killing the unit that's going to kill your thing back. So Sabine now has more flexibility to not just swing to face and hope they have enough.
Yeah. Yep. So some of the stuff to keep in mind before we talk about what to do to play against it is Rebel Assault. If they have, if you let them keep units on board going into what would be like their kill turn, yeah, you have to keep in mind that they have Rebel Assault that can actually just end games for you.
Yeah, just quickly on Rebel Assault, like there's a lot of games where you just like anytime that past like turn 4 or turn 5, you have to just like think, okay, if they have Rebel Assault and they claim, do they just win?
Right.
And that will happen a lot. So that's definitely like top card that I keep in mind that I've been absolutely destroyed by before, to the point where now it's just like, all right, are they going to Rebel Assault and kill me? And if they are, then like you might have to give up some damage. You might have to forego some trades to just like claim and hope to be able to deal with some of their stuff on the following round.
For sure.
Totally. And then you have Fleet Lieutenant. Obvious is like the obvious play is like turn 1 Sabine or A-Wing or whatever, and then turn 2 Fleet Lieutenant. But like that's not something you have to keep in mind. What you have to keep in mind is that they can Fleet Lieutenant and deal an extra 2 to one of your units. So like if they have Sabine out and you have like a 1-5 Sundari Peacekeeper or a 2-5 Tech or something like that, they can Fleet Lieutenant, swing, defeat that thing, and not die. They can do that with Cassian as well. So yeah, it's just keeping in mind that break point, I think.
Yeah, that just the extra 2 damage as well. Like if you're calculating how much damage you think they might be able to do to you, you got to keep that in mind just in case you're off by 2 and then you end up dying.
Yep,
for sure.
And being able to like shield stuff on the ground when they ECL Wrecker can be really impactful because they don't get to do the overwhelm. So like having which we'll talk about countering it, but yeah, I guess we should just move on over to that. We already talked about ECL and timelies with K2, Poe, and Wrecker. Let's talk about what you do to play against this. One of the best things I think against this deck is going to be upgrade hate. So if they keep holding their resources on that flip turn, and you know they're going to play a Darksaber or something, then being able to have a Confiscate, a Fang Fighter, or a Bamboozle to like tap down their Sabine and get rid of that Darksaber can be hugely impactful.
Yes.
And their Chewbacca, like being able to defeat their Chewbacca so that you can also kill the unit with removal if you need to, is going to be also pretty good, right? Yeah, Next up would be Sentinels. Village Protectors was the one I was mentioning. Now you do have to be a little bit careful because Sabine unit can like ping and kill Village Protectors. So it not in every situation is Village Protectors going to be great, but in a lot of situations it is, especially against ECL Wrecker, because then they can't get that overwhelm damage on you. You also have like
they can do the one played first, right? And then pop the shield and then
yeah, you're right. That's trash.
Don't get wrecked by that.
Yeah, don't get wrecked.
Don't play a Sentinel thinking that you're safe and then get wrecked by Wrecker.
Sentinels are still generally good though, because if they it stops their Sabine. Their Sabine only does 2. It has 5 health, so stuff like the hover tank is pretty sick against Sabine. Concord Dons can be pretty nice against like their space arena, and then just Sentinel in general.
I would say Sentinels in space are always good, and then Sentinels in ground are best early.
Yeah,
because they can blow you out with a ambushed Wrecker, or they can like run their K2 into whatever the thing is and overwhelm some and kill the K2 to deal some damage. So there's stuff to consider there too.
Sure.
Yeah,
but
good call there.
The nice thing about Sabine is like, yes, there's a lot of new cards from the new set, but the things that are really going to like destroy you are pretty known. And so you have to keep in mind, what are they likely to have to try to come over the top and kill you and play around that? Like obviously if like they're holding back a lot of resources, like y'all were saying, don't play into a Wrecker overwhelm. Like just play in space, or like don't even give them that option to where they're going to have to play Cassian, Forecast, those type of things. And really just try to play around like, okay, what are the things they have that are dealing damage? How do we avoid that? Restore is also awesome. Like
you were mentioning Blue Hero feels really good, and Data Vault feels really good into Sabine. Why do you think that is?
A lot of these decks are so tuned for hitting those breakpoints that if you can push that breakpoint higher, it's really hard for Sabine players to work around that. So like Yoda healing 2 every single time it attacks is really annoying. And worst case scenario, if that adds 4 health to your base because they have to kill Yoda, that's still pretty good. Even if it doesn't technically restore anything. Like I said, this deck is not not typically built to sustain the board. And so, yes, you're clearing the board, but if you're also able to like heal up at the same time, not a lot Sabine can really do around that.
Yeah, it does gain some better abilities to do that with the new Chewbacca unit. But yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. One card that we even forgot about because it's so well known is Foracause. We didn't even mention that in the things to play around sort of section here.
Yeah, I don't think you can. There is no playing around
to an extent.
I guess that's kind of true. Like you just
no
want to take as little damage as possible most of the time.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're playing on your side as well.
Yep.
One more thing to keep in mind before we move on to the next one is 5 damage dealing cards. So Force Choke, anything that you can ambush that either does 5 or if you're playing Quinlan that ambushes for 4 and pings. Stuff like that feels pretty decent into Sabine, especially if they're holding their resources after they flip so that they never even get a chance to put the Darksaber on her. So there's that. Yeah. I think that's about all we have for Sabine, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Great. Also, by the way, for the folks watching, we are going to timestamp these so you can jump around to the different leaders that we're chatting about, or decks we're chatting about. So as reference later while you're playtesting, you can come to these specific spots.
For sure.
All right, Quinlan is another big one. And a lot of this is well-known information because Quinlan has been pretty consistent since he came out. But we're going to break it down for you here, guys. We're going to break it on down. So Quinlan obviously is all about that hand control. He goes hard in hand control with Ahsoka, Qi'ra. I respect this dude for playing. I play both 3 Ahsoka and 3 Qi'ra. I saw some people not doing that, but I think it's totally worth it. He also main decks 3 Sparks. That's a lot of.
That's pretty sick. It's a lot. Well, I actually want to shout this out. I watched a video that I think it's this player, Team Secret, I think is what they're called. He posted a video to YouTube like 5 or 6 days before Richmond, going over his approach to Quinlan Vos and the deck breakdown and sort of like why he is, playing the cards that he's playing. And what he mentioned was that, if you're going to go in on the discard package, you want to go in on the discard package. And so I think Spark is there to sort of like pile on those effects.
Yep. Because the one that I didn't mention was Force Throw as well. So that's 12 cards in the deck that are all discard package related, which is sick. And this is such a tidy, clean list. So many 3-ofs and a couple 2-ofs here and there. I love seeing decks like that.
Same.
It makes it very clear for what's his deck trying to do. What's like each turn. It's kind of dream play. I love the Gorilla Soldier in here. I know that's kind of been tinkered with if people use that or not, but getting that early damage in and like hitting some cool breakpoints is really sweet for that. And it's that much more awkward for like the Tarkintown plays because people are so trying to play around turn 1, 2-drop, turn 2, or like
they go like pass turn 1 and then turn 2 Quinlan just drops that like first action with nothing on board. So that's one card to watch out for.
Definitely.
How else do you get wrecked by this deck? And I'm like, there's a super obvious one that I think probably everybody knows, which is Plo Koon. Yes. So how do you play around that play and like on the Quinlan flip turn?
Yeah, that one's interesting because on the Quinlan flip turn, you're like, okay, are you going to Force Throw me or are you going to Plo Koon me? And so, yes, you clear their board. So when they flip Quinlan, that's the only unit out is like the dream scenario. But against really good Quinlan players, that's probably when they just have the Force Throws and they're ready to hit your face anyway.
Sure.
They run very few 6 and 7 costs. Literally, this deck has 5 of them.
Yeah.
So it depends on what deck you're playing. But if I'm playing Han and they only have 1 unit out and they have to flip Quinlan to be able to put on Plo Koon's ambush and coordinate raid 3, the raid, you want to flip before they get the flip, so that you can at least get an attack in before they Plo Koon, which is
do you have time are you saying if you're playing Han, like do you even have time to do that because you have to resource first?
Yeah, that's fair.
And
that's
then
totally fair.
So don't get blown out by that
unless you resupply.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
earlier.
Well, then you just win the game then anyway if you play resupply turn 1.
The biggest thing is to be mindful of protecting your leader, especially if you need it to be out on the board against Plo Koon. That's obviously the big, like, hey, if they're able to Plo Koon you, you just lost. Or if like you have a like 6 flip leader that then they Han Solo you, you probably just lost. So that one's a no-brainer to play around.
But how do you actually play around it?
Totally. Make them spend resources is the biggest thing. So finding ways to either like have a board that they're going to have to answer the stuff that you have, clearing their board so they have to play something or flip Quinlan, those kind of things. It really is to try to force their hand to make the first move on that one.
This is only really super relevant in like mid-range versus mid-range or like aggro, right? Because against control decks, they're probably not going to have 3 units on board at this point. Maybe they do. I don't know. It depends. Sentinels help. If you have a Sentinel out before you flip, then they can't Plo Koon into your dude. But even without Plo Koon, they can surprise strike their Quinlan up into like 6 health leaders and stuff. So
for sure,
it's definitely hard to play around. There's not a lot of room to play around it.
I think the other biggest one, this is the most important deck in my opinion to know when are you supposed to be the aggressor, when you're supposed to be the defender, and playing accordingly. I think a lot of times people try to mix and match between the two, and like the best Quinlan players know the exact moment that they have the board and they are going to your face.
When they decide to do that, they have a lot of surprise damage because they've got the 3 hot shots, they've got 3 Cassians, 3 Falcons,
surprise strike,
the surprise strike. So there's a ton of ways for them to push damage through when you get to that point in the game.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the cards to play around, it's like force throw. Obviously, try to keep something low cost in your hand. Sabine's running Metal Ceremony again. If you can ditch a 0 cost to take no damage, it feels really, really nice. Having stuff to smuggle out. So like Han, Qi'ra with like Long Pike, Tech, Falcons. That helps a lot when they're targeting your hand so heavily. Let's see. Ahsoka exhausts if you discard a unit. So either attack with your units early or hold an event in your hand so that when they play Ahsoka, you can just discard that. It is a little awkward because it's like, are they going to play Qi'ra or are they going to play Ahsoka? If they're playing,
you want to hold different things for either.
Yeah, if they're playing Ahsoka, then it's like attack with your units early. If they're playing Qi'ra, it's like you want to play early so that they can't like hit the one card you want to play for the turn.
Yep.
So maybe you need to hold enough options for the 4 resource turn so that you aren't just like blown out, because Qi'ra can like just completely lock out turns if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So it's a little awkward, but I think that's just kind of a I don't even know. Like, how do you decide which one to play around?
I think the biggest thing is just trying to get initiative going into turn 3. Because, like you said, both of them are bad. But if you're able to have that first action to say, okay, yes, like not getting to play this unit would hurt me more than like attacking here. Yeah, it's good to have that first action to play in case Qi'ra comes down. And then if they play Ahsoka instead, you're like, okay, that wasn't what I wanted, but at least it wasn't the worst case scenario. So I think going into turn 3 in particular, having the initiative is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
That makes sense.
As later game decks, you're fine. Like if they pass turn 1, or if you have the initiative turn 1, like passing. If they decide not to play units turn 1, usually you're fine with that. Not even just like late game decks, but even like Cad Tarkintown.
Yeah.
We played a game earlier today.
Yeah, we did.
It's like we passed the first 2 or 3 turns or something ridiculous, and it's just like no one wanted to play units. But if you have a higher top end than Quinlan, like just pass. You don't have to play something turn 1, and that is counterintuitive to their like discard package. Like if you don't play turn 1, then you have extra cards. It's like you're just playing starting with extra cards.
Yeah, extra cards and extra resources.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. And then Qi'ra, I feel like is really good against Quinlan because they have all these 3/5s that are hard to deal with. Like they have super chunky units that stick on the board all game. Like every time I play against them, it's like they play a Cassian, a Ahsoka, and a Qi'ra. And it's like they're all 3/5s, and Plo Koon's a 3/6. It's like just hard to deal with their units. Qi'ra being able to flip, deal half the damage to all these dudes, and then like OB to clear 2 of them at least feels really nice against a deck like this.
Yeah, that is cool for sure. You do have to watch out for if you're playing a deck that relies on upgrades. At least this player is playing 4 upgrade removal cards in the main deck. So
I feel like it's necessary just because if you like freaking gym roulette into like a bunch of pilot leaders early, like you could get spiked by those.
Yeah.
So having the upgrade hate just feels important and necessary.
Yep. But if you're playing one of those decks that does rely on the upgrades, be careful.
Yeah. All right, that's Quinlan.
All right.
Cool. Before we continue, we have a members only club you guys can join. We just launched the day that we're recording this. I don't know when this is going to be posted.
Me neither. But
it is live, and we have some awesome perks for you guys if you want to join our members only club. The link will be below. It is unplayable.gg. We have some awesome merch, all kinds of awesome perks. So you guys just go check that out and let us know what you think. And yeah, we appreciate anyone who supports the channel so that we can make it better and make it grow.
Totally. Yeah, and tons of new videos on the channel that we're going to be adding consistently.
Yeah.
Things that it's like we typically wouldn't put on YouTube, that it's like just good gameplay, good conversations.
Yep.
We just want to invite you guys into
like
that.
This.
Absolutely.
All right, next up, we got Qi'ra. This is John Tada's list. I didn't mention the 2 previous players, Michael, and it doesn't have
Will.
The,
what's the Sabine player? Yeah.
I don't know them personally, but I do know John. So shout out to John for making it to top 8 with Qi'ra Data Vault. This is the deck that I was going to bring if I were to go to Richmond. Yeah. I was grinding this deck a lot, and I'm not surprised to see it do so well because it feels like it's in a powerful position right now. So, key things to remember. Traitorous has made a comeback, guys. People are playing Traitorous.
Traitorous is so good in this meta. Like I will put 3 of them in like every green villain deck I make, just because I don't play Green Hero very much. But if I play Green Hero, I'll probably put it there too. But being able to like play a ramp card on turn 2 and then just like steal whatever they have on the next turn feels so good, especially when they want to be like piloting up their Millennium Falcons and stuff like that. Yeah. Don't be on the other end of it.
Yeah. Against a deck like this, it might be very scary to put a Chewbacca on a Falcon or Chewbacca on an A-Wing or Phoenix Squadron A-Wing or whatever it is. So just be mindful that Traitorous exists, especially if they ramp that turn 2. If they play Resupply turn 2 and then on turn 3 they're able to play Traitorous on whatever you have, that can be really... You could just lose, right? Like you just probably lose right there unless you have like a Fang Fighter or something to be able to remove the upgrade. So keep that in mind. Also, the infamous Qi'ra flip and playing OB to deal 6 spread across all the people you already just damaged is something you have to be mindful of.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. The reason this deck is playable, I think, especially against decks that are a lot more early pressing aggro-y style or aggro mid-range, being able to just clear the board or clear a couple units after you flip is just insane. I don't know how you play around that, but it's something you have to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's less.
I guess you keep up a 4 damage unit so that when they flip, you can kill the Qi'ra before they get to OB.
Yeah, that's often a good way to deal with it. There's also, playing shielded units or finding a way to give your unit shields can preemptively get you out of that situation. It's just like making sure that you're playing your first few turns with that play pattern in mind. Yeah, because they're going to do that as early as turn 3. And like you're way far behind if they get to do that and completely wipe your board at that point.
Yep.
A lot of these things too, it's not how to prevent Qi'ra from flipping. You can't prevent Qi'ra from flipping, but it's knowing what are the win conditions for these decks and how to weather those storms. And so for Qi'ra in particular, it's like, hey, if you can convince them to flip on that 5 resource turn, and actually you have a really good response the next turn, that if they would have waited, that would have been problematic. Like, you're trying to say, okay, I know this is exactly what you're wanting to do here. I'm going to now make some decisions that makes that a little bit harder to figure out.
Yeah. So for example, a good example of this, because I play this deck, I was playing against a guy, and he played the Bounty Hunter, what are they called? Outer Rim Outlaws, in a Gar Saxon deck on turn 2. And then the following turn played the shuttle that lets him move the shield from the shuttle to the Outer Rim Outlaws. So it was double shielded. So if I flipped Qi'ra, it would still have a shield and it would still be at 4 power to kill my Qi'ra without taking damage. So that's like an example of how to set up that, like knowing how to play against that flip turn.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of the recommendations in this video is to say, with whatever deck you're bringing to a tournament, be thinking through some of these ideas of, hey, do you have specific cards in this list or combos that you can push together to weather these storms and come out on top? That's really what the goal of this is.
Don't play too hard around the flip either, because I've played a game where my opponent like would hold back like leader flip or whatever because he doesn't want me to flip Qi'ra, and then like passes, and then I just claim, and we played the entire game and I never flipped and still won. So don't play too hard around the flip because it can also punish you.
Yeah, because Qi'ra itself it has the late game to say, I'll stall. Sounds great.
You want to find ways to force them into
flipping in weird spots.
Yeah, doing it at an inopportune moment for them, or where they think that it's a good time for them to do it, but you have a play that turns it around in your favor. A couple other things that we should move on to is don't overextend into Super Laser Blast. Or Barrage, just like at any time in the game.
All right, so don't overcommit into the 8 resource turn for them because Super Laser Blast will destroy you. Ramp hate like Champs and Dula feels really strong into decks like this because they really, really like Qi'ra's one of the best things Qi'ra can do is play ramp on turn 2. Pershing provides an insane amount of value to Qi'ra if they play Pershing turn 1 and you don't do anything about it. They draw 5 cards, or they play a Super Laser Tech, use Pershing. Now they're at 4 resources on ready resources on that turn. Can play a 4-lom or removal piece. Like, he just provides way too much value.
Yeah, kill that guy.
Yeah, get him out of here. And then like one of the play your Chewbacca's. Force them to have no glory only results, because that's like the one card you don't want to see as a control deck. You do not want to see Chewbacca on anything. So and in this case he's only running 2 no glory, so Chewbacca can be really spiky against a deck like this because they can't remove it.
It's either no glory or barrage, but if you know that and it's you're not in a situation where they can barrage you, then you're gonna get your damage in. But just don't put it on your ship unless your ship costs more than 3.
And then as far as the late game goes, like if you go wide, they're hoping to Super Laser Blast. If you're going tall, they're hoping to Avenger or Devastator you. So be keeping tabs of their discard pile for what if they actually played, because those are their like, they can be some tempo, but for the most part it's like they're gonna have the late game answers to beat you eventually.
And they have Chilton, 6/6 Sentinel. Like, that's so gross. Bamboozle is really good against Chilton.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then specific hand removal can be good, like Sparks or Jams. Get their overwhelming barrages and stuff. All right, that's it for Qi'ra. We're gonna try to move along because we're chatting today.
It's good stuff.
All right, Han Green. This is one that I didn't play very much, and I've played it a decent amount lately, and I'm like, this deck is cracked.
Deck's
How is this
insane.
not the best deck in the meta right now? Honestly.
I don't know. I think I'd argue that it is.
It's so tempo-y, so like it can go so fast as well.
It can go super. That's the first bullet point. This deck can go surprisingly fast. Like turn 1 Falcon, swing. Turn 2 Chewbacca, swing. Like that can just win games.
Yeah.
So you have to be ready for this deck being able to just pump out damage. Don't think that it's like the whole deck is based around the Han flip, because it can powerhouse you early. I mean, even a stolen AT hauler turn 1 is like turn 2 Chewbacca.
Yeah,
is just like
turn 2 Chewbacca, or turn 2 like put Han on it and hit your opponent for 6 and then claim like gross.
It's Value Town. They have tons of smuggle to consistently present threats against removal decks like Qi'ra and stuff. Like I struggle really hard into this as Qi'ra. I legitimately don't know how you beat this deck with Qi'ra, because you can control their board as much as you want. If they keep smuggling out Millennium Falcons and crap like that, or playing U-Wings, like what are you doing here? how do you win? And then they get their tech out and smuggle whatever they want.
Yeah.
So things to keep in mind: the 5, 6, 7 turn, you go from 5 to 6 to 7, and then they either play their Han and kill whatever you have out there without taking damage, or they play their Ewing. And the way to play around this, I think it's kind of obvious. I think everybody has learned this. I mean, even in set 1, my plan as Sabine Yellow was to play Leia, so that I could just tap down Han. But you can play Plo Koon as a Quinlan or whatever to swing, ambush, and swing for 6, or you can play cards that exhaust, like No Good to Me Dead. I think really hurts Han leader on his flip turn. If you're able to keep them off of that 7 resources, I feel like their flip turn is way less impactful.
Yep. If you're playing like blue villain, you somehow keep their board clear until they flip and you power the dark side. Like there are ways, like things like that feel like a blowout on the other side. What are the things that blow you out as the person playing against this? My number one answer for this actually is every time they play resupply turn 1, I lose.
Yeah, that's fair.
And how do you counter that? Turn 1 spark?
Yeah, maybe.
No, I mean, so much of it is like then you have to like play into like that like on onslaught is about to come of like so much mid range hit in your face. One thing I was thinking about was like if you see an early tech, it's not as scary as it used to be. So just be mindful of like DJ is not in the meta. Tech is still really good. That's why there's 3 copies of it in here. But that's more for the late game reach than it is to really do some crazy early shenanigans. Like, yes, there's things it can do with like piloting some units from there, but for the most part, if you see an early tech, don't have the same fear you used to of like, I got to clear this thing no matter what. Because like you were saying, Jay, like getting rid of the Han leader on that 5, 6, 7 turn is really the scary stuff. And then trying to kill the early space units as best you can.
Yeah, it can be tough because, you play any turn 1 space unit basically, and they can just play the set 1 Falcon, kill it turn 1, and it's still around. Even blue leader, like they, you play your Inferno 4 or whatever, like they've got 5 cards in their deck that can just kill it turn 1. And if you're playing like a Tarkintown deck, like you I guess like you can kill their Falcon back, but they can also just hit you for 3 with it. So there's like those early space units that are really either annoying or able to set you back in tempo. I feel like that can snowball the game so much for them that like you can't recover from it. So I try not to play a turn 1 space unit against this deck if I don't have to.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like their version of like Ping Tarkintown. Like they just play something, kill it, and keep their unit on board.
Yeah, unless you also have Tarkintown. And then it's a little bit less bad because if they do attack into your unit, then you can kill theirs back.
Yeah, which you're probably fine if you're Han. Like you don't care that much. They spent 5 health and they don't have a turn 1 play. Some crazy shenanigans you can do with this deck is like U-Wing combos where you play Falcon and Poe. You create an X-Wing, you put the Poe on the ready Falcon, and then you get to attack for 5 out of nowhere. So keep in mind that it can do spiky stuff like present a ton of damage out of nowhere. It does run hot shots as well, so keep that in mind.
If you're playing a more mid-rangey game plan, some Hans play more Emphas Nest. Like Alex is only playing 1, but like that can completely shut you out of a game if you don't have units that are big enough to dodge her when played not attack. And they'll often put the Hotshot Blaster on her like the second time or the first time she attacks, and then just bounces whatever you have that's 7 or less attack, which is basically everything.
Yep. They are playing 8 total Falcons in this deck, and they're playing 3 of the Han Solo pilot. So keep in mind that at any point they have a Falcon out, they could do a shoot first, basically, with their Han pilot for anywhere from 5 to 6 with the Get Out and Push to 7 with the Lando's Pride. So
do we just need a main deck regional governor in every blue list?
Dude,
just
I played against an Anakin as a Han, but I was playing the other Han, but I still run 6 Falcons in my deck. And turn 1 regional governor Falcon, and it's like I had 2 Falcons in my hand as my turn 1 plays or turn 2 plays.
That's awesome.
That's great.
It's like, what do you do?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's one funny idea. But the other thing I was thinking through was, as I'm looking at this list, early game is very much space, and then they transition to the ground side. Like all of their late game outside of the Big Falcon is on the ground side. And so a part of that too that's really helpful for this list is if you're building up your space side, you're not going to be able to do anything against Han Solo when it deploys. And so to be mindful of like, yes, they're trying to do that early damage push over there so that they can then deploy Han safely and make that happen. So just kind of understand that's what kind of their goal is linearly through this list. I mean, Luke can come down sure as a turn 1 3-2, but it's just a 3-2. So like you're not that worried about it. But I just keep that in mind as well. Like as you're trying to like learn how to play against this list, it's kind of starting in the space side and then slowly transition to the ground throughout the game.
Yep. So real quick before we move to the next deck, Hand Hate. Early in the game's life cycle, we all said Hand Hate was a good counter to Han because they're wasting so many cards using their ability to kind of like get out ahead early with resource efficiency. Do we still think that's the case? Do we think Hand Hate still counters Han, or do you think he's playing too much smuggle for it to actually matter?
I think early it does still help because you know they're trying to play a 7 cost thing on that like Han flip turn. So getting to stop that is helpful. What's not helpful is thinking, okay, if I get them down to 0 cards, all of a sudden they're going to run out of momentum at the end game. I think it helps prevent that spike on that one turn where they're getting the 4/6 of Han out, as well as either a U-Wing or a 7-drop. So if you can prevent that, it's going to be a little bit more of an honest game. But they're really trying to use that flip turn to just put so much pressure on you that there's nothing you can do. So yes, to help prevent that, no to like prevent them from playing anything or being top deck mode.
Yeah, it's a little easier. They still have the Falcon they can just smuggle from the resources if you don't let them play a 7 cost card, and that is pretty scary too. But I don't know. Every time I go after their hand, they top deck their U-Wings anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Which is a skill issue on Mike's part, of course.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
Totally.
All right, we should move on to the next one.
Yep. Anakin Colossus. This is a beast of a deck. I really like this deck.
This version is so cool.
Yeah.
This version's very cool, and this is the other deck I was kind of like maining going into Richmond.
Yeah.
So you are starting a card down. How do we not get wrecked by this deck? First of all, same as Quinlan, you gotta keep in mind Force Throw Diddy.
Totally.
Yep. Force Throw Diddy is just way too strong, especially when they're playing like Yoda and then flipping. I guess Yoda and Luke are their only.
Yeah, that's it. They're a little less all in on the Force stuff, which is actually kind of cool.
But most people aren't clearing Yodas anyway, right? So like
not immediately.
He's gonna stick around.
Yeah. And like, they've got Colossus, so they're going a little bit later than other decks might. And Force Throw later in the game is
equally as good.
Equally, maybe even better sometimes because your opponent's holding their expensive cards.
Right? Yeah.
Totally. But so don't hold your expensive cards. Hold some cheap cards late into the game so that when they do Force Throw you can toss your your R2 and only take one.
Yeah. This deck, go ahead.
I was gonna say this deck is focused way more on lightsabers and bravado.
Yes.
Well, I guess I wouldn't say way more, but it has that as an option. Being able to ready Anakin with the lightsaber, or Poe even is not a terrible option to be able to ready, and kind of just like destroy you with Anakin. So with that in mind, you have to keep track of how much damage Anakin has on his base, because if you push a lot of damage early but you're not gonna be able to close it out consistently and they like stabilize, you can really be like punished for putting so much damage on Anakin's base, because if he flips dealing 10 damage and then bravados, there's not a whole lot you can do against that.
Yep. My number one thing that I have to make sure I don't get wrecked by against Anakin is his actual leader ability and remembering that it exists.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You forget about that every time we play.
Happy to do that.
Yeah, so stuff like Village Protectors, Outer Rim Outlaws, like even R2 and C-3PO, they can trade up into the stuff that you don't think that they can.
Yeah.
And gotta be mindful there.
Outer Rim Outlaws is a sick include in this deck.
Yeah,
honestly, like I was really surprised to see it, but like being able to swing for 5 and just pop the shield.
A lot of people are playing those 3/5s, and so it's such a clean answer to that. And he wants to put base on his damage on his base anyway to flip a giant Anakin.
Yeah.
I also love that this person was playing Cham in the main deck because like he's such a powerful leader to get out early, and especially against those like green villain ramp decks, or against Han even. Like it's just flipping Anakin early is so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anakin really is like, if they're able to get away with that, you can't do it. Like Anakin can swing for so much damage.
Yeah, and has 7 health, which is like hard to deal with.
Totally. Obviously, like Plo Koon is like a yay, but Anakin comes out on 6, so Plo Koon doesn't do the ping damage to it.
Yeah, so it can't actually even kill it.
With that, obviously, if you have Quinlan out and Han Solo, then that works, but that's a turn late.
So what are the counters to this? Like Anakin flipping and just being able to like get a lightsaber swing and bravado or whatever ends up happening with this deck. Like what do you do against that? He does only have 7 health for a 6 flip. He only has 7 health. So like on 6, there's a fair amount of 7 cost or cards that can deal 7, right? Like Maul. Like,
Maul.
You're probably
is
happy
7,
trading your Maul.
7 cost. So yeah, I mean, I think yes. If you can line it up, I think that's cool. And it is a good way to deal with Anakin. I think keeping their board clear and playing Power of the Dark Side is always a good time if you're playing blue villain. That's just always on my mind because I'm always playing blue villain. But
strictly Asajj, but we get it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you think you need to like try to kill Anakin ASAP? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's the force tag.
So much damage.
I will say a lot of times it's easy to think like the little space units you don't need to worry about, but they do add up damage over time. It's a lot of healing. There's a lot of card draw, like with Yoda, with C-3PO. They just call 3 every time because there's so many 3 drops in this list. So they're likely to be able to like draw, but like you were saying, remembering Anakin's ability is really important because if they do get a turn 1 play, they can typically trade into whatever you played and can kind of stall into some like mid game there and win that way.
So he is on Colossus and you start with 1 less card. Obviously hand hate is going to be really impactful into this deck, I think.
Yeah, it looks like Caston's the only smuggle card in here.
And then you have 2 Red Squadron X-Wing, 2 Yoda. Those are normally 3 ofs in this deck because of the card draw, but he's only got 2 of each. And those,
and there's 3 C3PO, and that's it. So,
so being able to discard them is probably really good. I mean, this had to have gotten through Quinlan's in Richmond.
Totally.
So,
yeah.
And Quinlan is all about discard, so I don't know if it's like a de facto, like that's how you win against this deck, but it can't hurt.
Yeah, I think, but like if you're playing into Quinlan with this, you're just trying to play your unit before they can hit your hand back, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so you can work around it if you know what they're trying to do. I think it's better in the decks that like you kind of forget that they have hand hate options. Again, Bazine's a great answer that it's like, yes, they're drawing a card back, but to get to really prevent like that strategic play or get rid of that Luke at the right time.
Yeah,
really helpful,
Luke is big in this deck
for sure. So honestly, like their big goal is to get Anakin out, buff it up, and have you not be able to do anything against it. So if you can get creative with that, it's not easy from there, but there's a lot of like you kind of can see what's happening. There's not as much surprise damage from hand or the resource pool, so it's a little bit more consistent to play around.
Yeah, talking about other Anakin lists too. A lot of them play Obi-Wan, so that's another card to sort of pay attention to and like expect to see, because that can also be a blowout if they like drop their Obi-Wan, flip their Anakin, and then you're like, oh, I can't do anything in ground anymore. So things to consider.
Yep.
Should we move
All
on?
right. Anakin, our last one we're going to talk about today is Cad Bane and Tarkintown.
Come on, man.
Deck I don't really know much about, so I'm going to let Mike and Jim take it away from here.
Perfect. First thing you're going to see this list, you're like, where's all the red cards? Because even the Hot Shot Blaster is in yellow. Guys, Tarkintown is that good in this list. I'm just going to be so real.
Yep.
You're doing so much damage across the board that just having that, it's not as much of Quinlan trying to go ping Tarkintown turn 1 and way more about, hey, they don't actually have the McClunky in hand or the IGs or whatever it is to try to just deal that ping damage. And so they're like, all right, fine, I'll use my Tarkintown now. But a lot of their deck is dealing incremental damage over time to your units.
Yep. And so how do you get blown out if you're playing against this?
Yeah, this deck isn't the fastest deck in the world, so it's not trying to do like the Quinlan, let me get the board quickly and then really start hitting your face. It is actually a little bit more of like the controlling side of the mid-range. So they have really strong mid-range units in this. Forlom Zuckuss is in here, Bosk is in here. And then obviously like having the CAD unit have 8 health means that it's just sticky. So that's kind of when they're trying to turn the corner and win the game around that space. And then obviously like as they're getting to the late game, playing the Cad Bane to clear off any sentinels that you have. So it's really in that like mid game as Cad's turning that they're trying to have your board clear and swinging with those guys. So playing around specifically the Forlom Zuckuss combo or getting rid of Bosk so that they can't have a lot of things that are really coming at your face, I think is really important.
Nice. Yeah, I always try and keep McClunky in mind. That's a card that can absolutely wreck you early game. They play Greedo and then McClunky it, or the next turn they can play McClunky plus another 2 cost unit, Bazine plus McClunky, and then they can Bazine again. So there's a lot of things with that card where you got to be mindful of the fact that it can deal 3 damage, it can bounce whatever unit they have, and it can allow them to replay when played, basically. And do the Cad Bane ping because it's an underworld card. So that's like one of the number 1 cards that I play around or try to play around against Cad Bane. This deck has Jabba, so you also have to worry about McClunky for 0 if Jabba's out, which is terrifying. And yeah, I guess the other big one in here is like Relentless Pursuit. If you can't deal with your unit getting captured and then your opponent's unit being shielded, then that could be a huge problem. So
for sure.
That one can be tough.
This deck struggles a lot into control as well. So if you're playing control, you're kind of typically excited to see Cad. Like the reason you see the Lurking TIE Phantom in the sideboard over there is to try to have some play into there. But you got perilous positions. You might have make an opening. You have a lot of ways that can kind of kill that thing anyway.
Yeah. Never leave Forloms on the board. Like Leaving a Forlom is just asking for you to get wrecked by a 7/7 Zuckus.
You're gonna think, but maybe they don't have it. They do have it.
Yeah, they always
absolutely.
have it.
Keep breakpoints in mind with either hot shot coming in at +2, and then the pings. Like sometimes I don't think about what they're capable of doing with all the pings, especially when he's flipped and getting to do 2 extra. Like the pings can end up really, really adding up against you. So keep those pings in mind and how much they can actually do with that. And then obviously on 7 they're going to drop Cad Bane if they have it. So keep track of how much health you have, because they can only capture 8. And if you can like present like check and they're not able to capture everything, you're probably pretty happy.
Yeah. I like playing the Sidon card a lot too. I know it's not in this list, but it's the one that can mess with your space side of things. So just be mindful they might have it. I know this particular list doesn't, but to potentially just deal 3 damage to a space unit, it kills a lot of those turn 1 plays. And again, this deck is happy to do that into aggro because it can typically beat aggro anyway if it clears the early board. And so that is a turn 1 just to snipe that. They're so happy.
And I think lastly, pay attention to the reach. They've got Surprise Strike, Sneak Attack. This particular deck has Ruthless Raider, so I'd expect that in Cad Bane decks moving forward. And and Devastator in the sideboard too. So that it can kill you out of nowhere. So you just got to pay attention. Make sure that you're not going to just die to a Sneak Attack Ruthless Raider out of nowhere.
Yeah. Ruthless Raider, it's the only red card in the main deck because Hotshot Blaster is really a yellow card.
100%. Yeah. And again, it's because Tarkintown is that good.
Actually insane. Ping Tarkintown turn 1. Like that's how this deck beats aggro decks. It's being able to do that.
Yep. Good against Han too, because it kills kills all their space units that they play turn 1 except for the stolen land speeder or whatever, the stolen AT hauler.
Yeah.
And you can probably just kill that the following turn. So,
yep. All right. Did y'all have anything else to say about Cad Bane Tarkintown?
That's most of it. Like I said, of course, Cad Bane at the very end to try to clear out the game is their dream scenario. And yeah, it's a lot of, like you all saying, a lot of ping damage coming at you. So just be careful.
So if you guys have any additional tips, please leave them in the comments. And if we're wrong about anything, if we're trash, Mike already had to correct me a bunch. So if there's anything that they missed that I said that was trash, please let me know in the comments, because I need to know how bad I am at this game.
Know.
That's it. I already know. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this meta video. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.